the September 15th meeting. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
It doesn't sound like it.
Well, it is there. It's right there. Good. Now hear that. We'll start with roll call. Have roll call. Jessica's going to take the roll call roll. So that
Coiner. Here. Greenlee.
Here.
Who? Kefauver.
here,
Meyer.
Here.
Peterson.
here,
Powell.
Here.
Schertz. Here. Spratt is absent. Walker.
here.
And Wittenmeyer's not here. We do have a quorum.
That's great. Well, then we will proceed. We have no one this evening for public comment, so we'll move on to old business, and we will move then to new business according to our agenda. So, but before we do that, we need to go back and approve the minutes. I was busy rolling here. So we have our minutes before us of August 18th, and let's take a minute to review the minutes, and I'll entertain a motion to approve them. Are there questions? Hearing none, do we have an approval of those minutes?
I
Motion.
move that we approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
I second.
The minutes have been approved and accepted, motion. Yeah, now we are going to vote, tongue-tied here. Those accepting the minutes indicate yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Abstentions or no? Minutes are approved. Thank you very much. Now, I did just say a few minutes ago that we will move on to new business, and the first item is election of officers, and there is an overview that's going to be presented preceding this. So, Chad, are you the person who's going to say something?
Yeah, if I can turn my mic on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. So annually at the September meeting, we always do elections of officers. Generally, we would start with a discussion and entertain anybody who wants to speak in favor of themselves, potentially chairing or having a chair seat. And then from there, nominations. If we have more than one person interested in a particular seat, then we will go through the roll call process to determine that seat. If there is just a single interest, then we will just draw the slate and approve it unanimously, roll call just the slate and move on. So with that, I send it back to you, Wendy, to start discussion. If anybody is interested in
the position of chair of the advisory board, we start there and move forward.
Correct.
So, discussion at this point. Thoughts, thoughts entered my mind, and would love to finally get this machine working for me, but I would truly be interested to continue. So, but that is just my preference at this time. So
do you want nominations in at this point?
Well, I guess, is there anybody else
Yeah.
that is interested or wants to state a statement of interest for a particular area?
For that or for?
So the four,
all four.
I guess we should preference, you have
Yes.
our chair, vice chair,
Okay.
secretary, and Riverfront Improvement Liaison.
Right.
So those are the four.
So we'll just make
seats.
it broad opening for those positions as such, right? I assumed that we were going one at a time, and so, but we are going to, any interest in the positions speak now. So we
And
have,
if there's no discussion, then you could go straight to nominations. So then if somebody would like to nominate somebody for a particular area, we can do that. But
I'll nominate Wendy. I think she's done a good job and wants to continue, so I see no reason to change that.
is
I
there,
nominate Wendy as well.
I appreciate your confidence.
I guess for the sake of order, is there anybody else besides Wendy who is interested in chairing the Park Advisory Board? Okay. Is there anybody, now we can move on to vice chair.
Vice chair, yes,
Is
please.
anybody interested in serving as the vice chair? It's currently Mike.
I would love to do it again. I promise no long-winded speech. I promise.
Aside from Mike, is there anyone else interested in vice chair?
Can I hold you to that, Mike?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Seeing no other interest in vice chair, is there, moving on to secretary,
secretary.
is anybody interested in secretary?
Leah does it.
I
Leah does an
truly have
excellent-
enjoyed sitting next
Leah
to
does an
Leah
excellent
in
job.
regard to this. She has been spot on and really good at whispering from time to time, and she's between two potential officers, so it
Leah,
makes-
would you be interested
Yeah.
in continuing as secretary?
As long as no one else is interested.
Is anybody else interested in
I can-
secretary? No? All right.
I can continue.
So then lastly, we have Riverfront Improvement. Currently, that is Chris. Chris, I would ask, is that something you would wish to continue in that role?
It is something I would be interested in continuing if I was reelected.
Okay. Is there anybody else interested in Riverfront Improvement Liaison? All right. Seeing none, we have a slate of officers, so I think you can present the slate as we have interest, nominate the slate, and then we'll do a roll call vote on the slate to approve. So,
Right. Who would like to place the nomination, or,
well,
Would
Leah,
that
do you
be
want to report out the slate as,
yeah,
so,
I'm actually the
or
one
do you want to
keeping
do
track
it?
of that.
Okay, never mind. Jess can do it.
So for chair, we have Wendy Peterson. Vice chair, we have Michael Schertz. Secretary, we have Leah Spratt. And for Riverfront Improvement Commission liaison, we have Chris Meyer.
A motion to approve the
I
slate.
motion to approve those as stated.
I second it.
it's been moved and seconded to approve the slate as presented. At this time, we will vote, and so those signifying indicate yes for the slate.
Yes.
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 And any abstentions or noes? Well, we will work, on behalf of the slate, we will work toward continuing our operation in the following years. So thank you. That worked very smoothly, and let's proceed with the rest of our meeting. Thank you so much. We have item number 2, the project updates, and Chad is going to do that, and we also have a handout, correct?
Yes, well,
yeah.
yep, you have a copy of the presentation that's up on the screen. So
Right.
last month, we had a couple questions about ongoing projects. One in particular was the Credit Island Nature Playground and the schematic and the concept that's out there. So I thought we'd take the opportunity to sort of give you an overview and show you the concepts or actuality of some of the playgrounds that are being funded through ARPA. So we have a series. I'll go through the majority of it. I may tag a staff member in if you guys have certain questions. But feel free to chime in. I'll pause after each one if you have a specific question on a project. So starting off is the Credit Island Nature Playground. So this is it was funded through the city CIP program. It's currently in design phase with the goal of spring construction, bidding it late winter. So this is, we held a public input meeting, I believe it was back in March at the Roosevelt Community Center. Shive Hattery is the consultant team that is doing the design on this play structure or event, because it's not what you would think as a traditional playground, right? This is more natural with elements, boulders, timbers, more flood tolerable for the island. So this is the concept as it was vetted through the public, and this is what they are developing at this point. So then the next couple ones, I think you've probably mentioned me or have heard me mention numerous times about ARPA-funded projects. So these are the playground projects, sports courts, and a splash pad at Cork Hill will be in the next slides. The majority of these playgrounds have been ordered and will arrive sometime, we're hoping late October, early November, and we're hoping to have that weather will cooperate to where we can get these installed yet this year. So the first one was Harbor Road. This Harbor Road is getting an obstacle course style playground. The existing play structure that is there is remaining, so this is an addition to the park, not a replacement. One thing to note with all these ARPA playgrounds, we did go into the schools and engage all the kids that were adjacent to these parks and had them preference different playgrounds. And this was ultimately the one the kids picked. So we felt it was important, city administration felt it was important that the end user, ultimately the kids, have a very large say in what they're getting in their park. So this is Harbor Road. Whalen Playground, now this is a replacement of the existing piece up there. Again, this was an ARPA-funded playground. And again, that one has been ordered and should be here sometime late October, early November. Lafayette Park, this is a replacement of the existing playground. One thing to note with this is when we install this new one, it will be set back a little bit further in the park. If you're familiar with Lafayette, the current playground sits pretty tight to Gaines and Fourth. And although we haven't had any reported incidences, we felt it was important to, from a safety perspective, to move that back a little bit.
On Lafayette Park.
Yes.
Are you going to have ADA sidewalks in there?
Yep, yep.
So that, those will be around that park system? or
Correct.
Okay.
Hey, Chad?
Yeah.
Is that going to still be close to 4th Street as well? You're going to have it both push back and over?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Are we gonna get trash cans there? We really, really need them, guys. It's bad over there.
Are there none there? We will look into that, and if there are insufficient cans, we can certainly place more.
Thank you.
The next one is EMICE. This is another ARPA playground. EMICE is, we are replacing the existing playground with an inclusive play structure similar to Gabe's Play Village up at Vandevere, as well as adding a second play structure, which will be an obstacle course style play structure. These are currently being designed in-house because of the inclusive play. So I do not have an updated rendering or picture of what's going to happen. That is being done by Zach Peterson in Public Works, our landscape architect. We are hoping to have the plans submitted and ready to bid by winter with a spring install. Cork Hill is getting 2 new enhancements through ARPA. The first being a upgraded splash pad. So Cork Hill currently has a very small spray feature. We are going to upgrade that to a larger with several splash features. That has been awarded and has been ordered or in process of being ordered. We have the kickoff meeting will be held in early October to finalize that project. Again, and I should stop and preface something real quick. Our target is to get everything bid this year and with hopes of having construction in the spring and have everything pretty much up and running for next summer. The issue that not only we're running into, but a lot of projects citywide is just supply chain issues, right? And it's a national thing. So we have these status updates in the timeline, but I just want to be clear that those are very fluid depending on how things can be delivered to us and when contractors can get things in hand to start construction. We experienced that a little bit firsthand with the Tyler Playground a year ago, trying to get that put in and installed. And that's a lot of the feedback we're getting from playground vendors, is that their manufacture and delivery timeline is being extended. So,
Quick question.
Yeah.
How's it been cost-wise? I know you guys had an estimate. Are we good on cost,
Yeah.
or has it been high?
no, actually, all the playgrounds came in under budget, which was good. Now, that's not true to everything.
Right, the ones you got ordered so far.
Yeah. So all the playgrounds came in under. So we're sitting really good with the overall ARPA funding pot. But further on, in one of the upcoming slides, I'll talk a little bit about the dose pool replacement, and there's a budget issue with that. We just had a meeting yesterday, so. But we've been happy with the playgrounds. Now we're just holding on, hoping that they can get delivered in a timely manner and we
Right.
can get them installed, so. All right. Next slide. So Dose, look at that. So Dose, if you're familiar, used to have a small pool. It has not operated for the last 2 years. It was essentially past its useful life. It would be more costly to renovate the pool than to replace it with a splash pad. Vandevere is not far from Dose, so that serves from an aquatics need for lessons and other things in the neighborhood. So the splash pad, this will be a destination type splash pad, so it will be larger in nature than what you would see at, like, say, Centennial, which is our largest splash pad. We are in the design process with Hitchcock Design Group. We actually had a meeting yesterday and got a couple preliminary concepts. Geez, I can't speak today. Don't put that in minutes. Anyway, and one of the issues we were hoping we would be able to reutilize the existing bathhouse from the pool. And it doesn't look like that's going to be feasible from a Iowa Department of Public Health Code perspective. We don't have the space to essentially put the required amount of fixtures, toilets, urinals that is needed for the size of the splash pad that will be there. So they're looking at two things: scaling back maybe the existing splash pad size a little bit to meet that code definition. Irregardless, either way, we're going to need to probably build a new bathhouse to accommodate this splash pad, which is going to take up a significant amount of the budget, which is unfortunate because the trade-off is we will probably lose some play value and experience value in the splash pad for the sake of a bathroom, basically. So we're working through those issues. I'll report back more. We're still in the conceptual phase, so nothing's set in stone at this point. But that is at least the preliminary thought and information we got back on Dose. Again, we're trying to push this one in hopes to have some sort of summer season in 2023. But again, delivery supply issues may delay that a little bit. But we're being optimistic that we can push this one and have some sort of opportunity for next summer.
Chad,
Yes.
are these splash pads that are about the same size, what's the cost on them?
So the Dose project, we have $800,000 budgeted. Cork Hill was, I'm looking at Betsy, 200,000. But Cork Hill will not be nearly the size of Dose, right?
Okay.
But Dose is a $800,000 budget at this point.
Now, how much is ARPA putting in?
All of it.
All of it?
It's 100% funded through ARPA dollars.
Okay, I'm questioning what Goose Creek there's a pad that we'd like to help out with Kiwanis, and
Yep.
we were wondering where the status was on that and how we could benefit you, the city.
Yeah, I think Teresa's been meeting with the Kiwanis groups on that, and that's definitely something we would like to look at. So within the system, there's 3 small standalone spray features. We have one at Cork Hill, one at Goose Creek, and one at Peterson Park. And they're sort of aging out, obsolete, and they're, to be honest, there's not a lot of play value in them. So Cork Hill is being replaced with ARPA. We are looking to partner with the Kiwanis and raise funds to upgrade the one at Goose Creek. And then Peterson, we'll probably look at a separate CIP to see if we can upgrade that one. But Goose Creek, you're probably looking similar to Cork Hill, like that
Okay.
$150,000, $200,000 range to improve that splash pad.
And could that be, I mean, not that we want it to start this week, could that be in the 2023 projects, or is that,
Depending on if we can privately fundraise that money with little to no city dollars, then yeah, it could probably at least start design. It wouldn't
would
likely
it be
be
better-
constructed and opened in time for 2023.
okay, could we do it for 24?
Yeah, there's a better opportunity and to try potentially in 24, especially for city dollars, because we're submitting CIP requests now,
Okay.
so there's an opportunity to maybe do that.
Which would give Kiwanis more time to raise
Yeah,
money.
yeah, and I would say there's no rush on Goose Creek. I mean, it
Okay.
still functions. It's just aging out,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
there's no real reason to push that one.
I had a quick question. Can it be phased? So can it be expanded on at a later time? So like you said, we'll have to go smaller to offset that bathhouse, which that structure is, I think is a huge value because you don't find those original ones any, longer. So if you go smaller and then in, the next following budget year, expand on as planned, kind of stretch it out a little bit, but still be able to open it in 23? Is that something that can be done, has been done?
So the key with that, as far as the splash pad itself, you can certainly plan and build into for expansion. So you could do some of the additional water lines and other things needed to, say, if you wanted to add additional features down the road. The biggest issue is you would still have to meet code requirements, so you'd still have to build that bathhouse to that requirement,
Right.
if
so-
that makes sense.
So I guess so that you could build the bathhouse to the requirement.
Right.
Go down a little smaller with the anticipation, even if you do multiple branches off sections. or
Yeah,
kind of
I mean,
pool
when you
and,
look, when you look at splash pads and even the 2 concepts we're reviewing now they're sort of zoned, right, for different play elements. So you'll have an area of primarily ground sprays or small bubblers that caters more towards toddler age, right? And then maybe cannons and dump buckets for older kids in another section. So I think it's feasible. It could be done that way. The problem is the pot of ARPA money that's funding is what it is and what's been allocated. So we would have to put it into CIP or park development, any sort of expansion. And then that's always a guessing game, right? Because those get rated out and they could be pushed 4 or 5 years down the road or not funded at all. So I would say ideally, if we can accomplish our goals with the pot we have, we should try to do that. But we can certainly discuss with the consultants if that's viable, and they can give us some feedback, and I can report back. So, okay, the next thing is the multi-sport courts. So 3 parks are getting what is termed a multi-sport court. So basically, it's a hard court sport surface that has multiple play options, basketball, futsal, soccer. You can do net sports, tennis, pickleball, if you want. We are trying to stay away from net sports with these primarily because we have adequate tennis. We're building new pickleball courts in Duck Creek. And from an operational standpoint, to have to take nets down and up to allow for other activities, it would be a challenge for our team. But 3 parks are going to get these, Harrington, Van Buren, and Cork Hill. Cork Hill and Van Buren are basically modifying the existing underutilized tennis spaces. And then Harrington will be a new surface put in with the sport court. The one that was preferenced by the public when we were at Party in the Park at Van Buren was what's shown here is a system that is made by Musco. And Musco's out of Muscatine, and they are the nation leader in sports lighting. So any ball field lights and all that, it's typically a Musco system. And they came out with these, so they'll have lights, so they'll have extended play opportunities. It's all enclosed, fenced in with multiple sport opportunities within the system. So it's actually pretty cool. I know this picture doesn't necessarily do it justice, but if you have an opportunity, Google Musco mini pitch is what it's called. So
What's it called?
mini pitch.
Okay.
It started as they started it as a partnership with USA Soccer for inner city urban soccer opportunities, to where they could build these in sort of underutilized inner city courts and bring soccer into urban areas. So
I have a question.
yes, sir.
I think that's a neat program, and I think we should have some somewhere, but my concern would be the lighting in those particular neighborhoods. Or are they going to be okay with that, or are we going to take a survey of what they?
Yeah, we've done that ahead of time.
Oh, you did?
So, and that was a concern too, right? Because that's typically when you put anything with lights in a residential or neighborhood park, a lot of times there's pushback. And I was pretty surprised, honestly, because there is another system made by a different playground company that doesn't have lights, and we preferenced both of those. Walked around the Party in the Park at Van Buren, talked to neighbors, and they all unanimously picked the one with lights. So,
Well, that's a good place to
Yeah.
have a park like that.
right.
It is.
So I feel comfortable that we did our due diligence and engaging neighbors about that issue. So,
Okay, I do have the same question on something similar to that, but without lights, it'd be at Emi's where the tennis courts are. That whole place needs to be redone, I think.
yeah. So,
And there's some extra land behind that.
yeah, we are working on, Betsy's actually working to look at the usage of our hard courts system-wide. And because they need to be redone one way or the other.
Yeah.
EMICE is our furthest west tennis opportunity.
But
They do
pickleball
get,
too, maybe.
what's that?
Pickleball as well. I think there are lines there for that.
Yeah, yep. So you'll likely see in our submittal a proposal to at the very least, freshen up, grind, resurface, paint, stripe,
So
all
we're
the hard
looking at it
courts.
then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Along with basketball courts. So we're pairing those two to sort of take care of all our hard court surfaces in all our parks. So, because I know Whalen's basketball court has some cracking issues. The ones down at Centennial are in decent shape, but could probably use some maintenance. So we're looking at all that. Okay, I'm going to let Betsy take this one. This is the Vandevere Stone Bridge Beautification. Her HORT team has been working very diligently on this along with Friends of Vandevere, and this is a so the next ones are primarily going to be funded through park development. So a lot of these you had the opportunity to rate and have reviewed, so we just wanted to give you an update as to where we are.
Yeah, so this one is as Chad said, the Friends of Vandevere are working together with us on this program. So the plans have been complete. Those were done in-house by our landscape architect. And Natasha is reaching out to a local contractor. Because they are a separate entity, not tax supported, they can do that. They can reach out to contractors, unlike city employees. We are not allowed to do that. So we're hopeful that they'll be able to get some in-kind services and some really inexpensive work, but done by a quality contractor.
So North Gaiman Playground, this has been ordered, and we're hoping that it will be in and installed later this fall. This one was part of Park Development Program, not ARPA funded. City Cemetery Building, this was funded through Park Development. It was bid and awarded. It did come in, was this one over budget? No, it was under budget, yeah. So we were happy about that because being a structure, that's where we're seeing a lot of, I think, variation in the market in terms of pricing when you're doing buildings because of material costs. So it's been awarded. I think we're waiting on the contract from the contractor, and then they'll start with the pre-construction meeting. You might see some work kick off yet this year. If not, it'll be primarily done in the spring. Goose Creek Restroom, this is another project that was recently awarded. This one did not come in under budget. We had to utilize some leftover money. Betsy did a good job of piecing together other project funds that were complete that had leftover money to move this one forward, but it's all lined up and construction will start this fall. Community bike racks, I believe these are all complete and are soon will be sent to be powder coated and painted. The next step will be to have some conversations because I don't think we've actually picked what parks these are going in. So I would look to you guys to give us some feedback on that. I believe we completed 10. So with the pot of money from Park Development, they were able to build 10. My thought is to probably not roll them out this late in the year and let them sit a winter in the parks and probably look to install somewhere in the spring. So that'll give us an opportunity to bring back some ideas regarding location for you guys to comment on. I'll let Betsy take this one.
So yeah, this was Roosevelt Community Updates, Community Center Updates. This was a variety of smaller projects that we lumped together for a $50,000 program. So if you've not been to the center lately, they now have carpet, they have freshly painted walls, they have safety treads on stairs, so they're no longer a hazard. Just lots of little things that just were really tough to get done in our operating budget. We bundled those together. And Sherry's done a nice job at project managing that. Kind of stretched her outside her comfort zone, but she did a good job managing that one.
Okay, that's awesome.
Skate park improvements. So this is combination. We put in a small request to do some pretty critical maintenance repairs, some crack repairs, some concrete, some edging. Through the Park Development Fund last year, which you guys prioritized and funded. I believe it's around $50,000 for that. We also put in a separate CIP for $300,000 to do further enhancements, and that was actually funded through council. So we have a collective pot of about $350,000 to do some improvements at the skate park. We are working, to this point, it's been primarily outreach and input. So we've had a series of meetings at the skate park. Jessica and Becca led one that was really, really great. Good turnout. 40 plus kids came and gave input. So we're taking a lot of that feedback now. We'll be reaching out to some skate park vendors to talk about getting pricing on some of those improvements. I would look to see construction sometime. We probably will be as early as next spring, but some of the feedback we got, we don't want to necessarily interrupt the primary use of the season. So we may push construction to fall of 2023. But there'll be more updates as we progress on that project. Whalen Walking Path, this was a park development program. We have the concepts from the design. So the next step is to finalize the plans, get those out to bid, award the contract, and then start construction in the spring. So with this and the playground replacement, you'll see some significant improvements to Whalen Park. This is an internal walking path similar to like what's at Jersey Farms or Slattery. So it's an exercise option for neighborhood users to just enjoy walks. If you've been up to Whalen, you know there's not very good sidewalk system. It's an industrial area with big trucks and other things. So some of the neighbor concerns would be creating a safer route within the park to do this. And I think this was ultimately brought forward by Alderwoman Lee and our 8th Ward Rep, Mike Schertz.
What's the path going to be constructed of? Is it asphalt?
Yeah, it'll be an asphalt path. We looked at 3 different options: concrete, asphalt, and crushed aggregate. Ultimately, it was more cost effective to do asphalt, so we got more path out of it. The We Go Swing, another park development program. So this is the inclusive accommodating swing for wheelchair access. This is going to be added to Gabe's Inclusive Play Village at Vandevere. We have met we need to do some grading, design, so that's being worked through with one of our consultants right now. Once that's done, we can bid the project and install in the spring. Lindsey Park restroom renovation. So this is basically upgrades to the restroom. This was brought on part of park development due to an increase, the perceived increased use potentially from the cruise ships that are now docking at River Heritage. And frankly, it was aging and needed some upgrades. So it's a pretty simple project. There's some fixture upgrades, some brickwork, some painting, roof, that type of stuff. It's not going to change the size or the number of fixtures within the restrooms, but it'll doll it up a little bit.
Great. Cool.
So that's a lot of our projects that are going on right now. If you have any additional questions, we'll be happy to answer. Or if there's something we left off, because there are smaller miscellaneous ones going on.
Good?
Yeah.
What was the final cost of the?
Chris?
When I was out there teaching last spring, I thought they'd be $1,000 a piece.
Yeah, that's what they came in. We had $10,000 total, and they came in. We got 10 of them out of that pot, so about
I was
$1,000
pretty
a piece.
astounded.
Did you have a question or comment, Krista?
I did want to ask, because I know I keep mentioning painting the basketball courts in my ward that really, really, really need it. But are we just not going to worry about that because we're going to get new courts, or? I was just curious about that timeline.
Are you talking about the courts at Centennial?
Well, technically, I guess that would be specifically Lafayette, Harrington Park, those basketball courts, the
Right.
ones that.
So, yes, we are looking at doing a larger, I mentioned hard court CIP,
Right.
and they'll be addressed in that one.
Okay.
Yep.
No, I know.
Yep.
Great.
Before, not this stuff.
Okay.
As far as the underbid ARPA projects, are there enough of those to move some of that money towards the dose pool issues?
Yes, potentially, right. So we are taking any under budget, leftover money, for lack of a better term, and we are keeping that as contingency for other projects. So we still have to bid all the sports courts, dose pool, and the E-Mice playgrounds. And there is another project earmarked for feds within that. So as we go, and that's sort of how we have till 2026 to expend all the ARPA money. So we've sort of been phasing these, knowing that the market's volatile and we're not really sure exactly how things will come from a bidding perspective. So that's the long answer, but the short answer is yes, that's an opportunity.
Okay, does that money have to stay within the projects identified for ARPA, or are you able to use it elsewhere as long as it's a park project?
No, they have to stay within the projects identified.
Okay.
The only way I think it could be reallocated would take council action because they set those
Oh,
projects.
okay.
Yeah. So for example, if council wanted to reprioritize or spend money they could, in theory, take money from a different pot and move it around, so.
Are we ready to move on? I think so, yes?
So yeah, this
that's-
was also a good transition to our next topic,
Right.
which is Park Development Program. Part of the reason we wanted to show you a lot of the projects that have been funded in the past, but we are starting the park development process for 2024, the fiscal year 2024, not calendar year.
We've got that.
So included, Jessica has put together a nice little flow chart for your guys' reference. You have that at your desk. But as a reminder, park development is an annual CIP program that funds small to medium-sized projects within the park system. So typically what we do at this is sort of roll out the dates, the critical dates, and that's what you have on your sheet. We have submission of projects requests. Those will be starting following next week through the end of October. So if you have ideas or projects you would like to see staff look into to submit as part of the program rating, let us know. What's that? Turn on your mic and let them know that. I'm going off the flow chart, so.
So if you guys have a project idea, if you could get it emailed to Chad or I by the 15th, that's going to give Betsy and her team a chance to review it, get bids if we need to, and really evaluate the project before it's submitted to CIP funding or park development.
That's the last bullet on this, right? It says October 31st.
Change that to the 15th.
So the document you have in front of you is not only for you, but it's also for our staff. So those are staff deadlines for these items.
Okay, so we're 10:15.
Yes, ma'am, I apologize for not putting that.
Oh, no, that's fine.
So with that, then we review from staff, and then the next sort of thing you guys will see will become in mid-December, when we'll come back and present the list of submitted items. And about that time, we'll also issue the annual survey, rating survey that we do through SurveyMonkey for you guys to score those projects. We ask that those projects are scored by the end of December. From there, I take those scores, and then we do a rating, a similar survey with council, so they'll rate the projects. And they always like to see how you guys rate them, so they know that they're probably in line somewhat with what our Park Advisory Board is thinking. So council scores in January, and their scoring's due by the end of February. So then at the March meeting is when we will bring back the final scores, and you guys will approve or modify the proposed park development slate of projects for fiscal year '24. And then it will move on to council for their approval at one of their April cycles, so.
Question, Chad.
Yes.
The stuff that was approved for this year, is that for next year? Oh, yep.
So
there
yeah,
it is.
No, you're spot on. The projects that you guys rated last year were for fiscal year '23, which we're currently in. So that's why you were seeing a lot of those projects being done. So projects will be this round will be for fiscal year '24, which will start July. We'll have that money available July 1st of 2023. It's very confusing how our fiscal years overlap. But you are rating projects that we will get funding for to start next summer.
Or we add more, right? No?
What's that?
The idea is for fiscal year '24.
But that starts in
our
July.
Staff is working on, they've got an initial list, but if we have other ideas,
Yeah,
should be
so
submitting.
the way it works on the front end is we solicit submissions ideas from you, from council, from staff. So we get a whole big pile of different
so now's the
projects.
time.
And
Now's
then
the time.
I and the senior staff sort of work through the best funding mechanism, because sometimes it may be something we can handle with an operating budget that doesn't need to be a capital expenditure. Sometimes it's a large item that needs to be a standalone CIP, probably. So typically, I mean, we have $350,000. We like to try to get like 8 to 10 projects out of that pot of money and spread it out amongst all different wards and throughout the city. So it's this year we had a couple large ones like the Goose Creek restrooms, an unusually large project for park development. I mean, that was a $125,000 project that took up a third of the park development money. But typically they'll range, that $20,000 to $50,000 range is usually what we're looking for. Some playgrounds, we funded a lot of playgrounds out of this program. Those usually around $65,000 to $85,000. So
What's the update on the Cougar House at February? I didn't see anything on here. Do we have an idea?
the roof,
Yeah, so that funding just became available July 1st.
yeah. So I don't think we've done much with it at this point as far as design. So, any questions about park development or the schedule or anything else we can address?
I do have a question.
Yeah, no, for sure. No.
Okay, we just did a building out at Emice Golf Course, correct?
Mm-hmm.
There's still a barn out there that still looks like it's in pretty decent shape. What's the intended plans on staining or covering to prevent decay any further?
I'm going to let Troy field that one.
Yeah, because I'd hate to see that building fall apart. It just looks like it needs stained. My husband used to work out there too, because we drive by, he goes, they still ain't done that barn yet.
No problem. The barn, we're gonna obviously preserve it for extra storage and it does, 3 years ago, we put a new roof on it. It has a new, steel.
Yeah.
Sided roof, and that's what truly protects your bones of the barn, are putting the roof on. And, excuse me, when we finish the building that we put up, our new building, we're gonna go through the other buildings and match them up with like, matching siding.
Oh,
So
okay.
then all the buildings will look like a complex of all new buildings, even though that's an older building, so.
Any idea when that might potentially?
Well, the golf course has a CIP fund that we pick, we work projects out of, and then when we have like extra change from other bigger projects, we use on those type of things. Or if it's big enough, we'll put in for its own, but
So you're
right now
gonna
it's.
put metal over the wood now?
Yes.
Okay, so that would, yeah, so it must be in pretty decent shape. It just looks horrible as far as the sides.
Yeah, the sideboard's it's ready to paint, but we know we're gonna put the tin over the side of it, yep, so.
Okay.
And then the tin will look just like the new building does.
Right.
So they'll all look like a new building.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, Jerry?
Inside.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want a piece of equipment that's way in the back, you have to take everything out to get it out.
Yeah, yeah.
So my question, when you do the outside of that, and I understand you want to keep it for storage, but you only have one door coming out of there with that thing. So maybe before you put a siding on or whatever you got to do, maybe look at the structure inside. You can move that around so you can move stuff around inside. And secondly, it may not be a bad idea to put another door somewhere else, a garage door.
Yeah, that's all getting looked into
that
on
make
the
sense?
back side, yes.
Okay.
So we'll put some extra garage doors in it, that's easy to do.
That
at
way it's
time.
easier to get that stuff out of
That's all
there.
part of the siding plan.
Okay, I just wanted to make, that's,
Fantastic.
that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Chad, I have a question. There's $12,000 remaining. Where's that, are we going to be able to keep that in, or do we lose it because you didn't spend it?
Nope, so that's a small contingency that the last project that was on the list was exceeded that amount, so we keep that, and our CIPs roll over, we don't lose the money, so it's likely that another project may come in over, we may have to dip into that 12,000 to cover some other project, but we don't lose it. We'll keep it within the park development fund.
Moving on, yes? We have now staff reports, and you did receive staff reports in a separate email message that came after the agenda and minutes. So given that, are there questions? We'll leave it. We don't need to,
I have a question.
yes.
The golf ranges are low on range balls and in short supply by vendors. High price and little inventory makes it challenging to resupply the golf course. I have cases of golf balls in my house. Do they have to be specifically a color, or can I get rid of them? Without my husband knowing it.
Yeah, we take range balls at Red Hawk sometimes. That'd be the place I'd tell you to drop them off if you absolutely want to get rid of them. But the golf pros and the staff, we put there's a minimum quality that we put in the balls that you rent to hit off. So we're constantly culling them out, because even some of the ones that have been new, they've just worn out their hit, and you can tell that they're just so beat up that we don't want to charge somebody for a ball that bad. But we take balls in like that.
Okay, great.
I have a question. The information about the new hot water boiler being installed, is that related to the current dense fog and big bumps on the ice surface? Or is that something separate that has a problem that is being addressed?
That
And
just
what
has
is
to
it?
do with the combination of it being a hot humidity outside, and the way the building, has to react. It doesn't have anything to do with the water heater.
Okay, well, the word among people that are out there is there's a part that they're waiting on to get it fixed. And so I guess I have an opportunity to ask, is that a rumor? Because it's never been like that for a long time.
Sure, I'm not sure exactly of the part they're talking about. I do know the water heater's hooked up now, and we have many, parts that are in the process of being repaired ongoing all the time, so.
Okay.
But I can get back to you on that exact issue.
Yeah, please do, because it's not fun trying to skate between the bumps on the ice. So it needs to happen, and some of it's worse than others on
Okay.
the size. So, thank you. That'll be good. Other questions?
Sure, there's some wall washers that probably can get looked at, be repaired, working properly. And there's some out there, even with the golf club washers, those are not.
Yeah, we've been getting a lot of play. Everything's starting to wear down, and we usually try to keep things working for the season. And then when we bring them in the wintertime, they're all evaluated and either thrown out, parts replaced, or new technology, something like
I
that.
see the
Sometimes.
new boxes are out there now with the sand in and the grass seed and so forth.
Would you
The
say it
new-
was a
the
successful
new,
year?
Pardon? Excuse me.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jerry. I'm
The
good.
new tees for the seniors and the women's tees, they aren't looking very good. Look like they've not been taken care of, and they're just getting they don't look like it anymore. They
Part
don't
of-
look like when you first put it in there.
Sure. Part of that is, we're attempting to grow bent grass on those, tees, and it's a little harder to grow in, when we don't get the, when we've had a long summer. Sometimes it's just the priority of things priority things that we're maintaining, for the use that they get. We're just trying to get caught up on all those practices and get them up to par.
So you've seen them, and you've seen where there's patches, it's just dirt in there.
Right, yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, and it's hard to establish, new grass in the heat of the summer. When you get weather like we got coming up in the fall, that's when it's good to, even if you're putting sod down, it's easier to grow and maintain with little effort that is, needed in the summertime.
Well, they need tender loving care is what they need. And
Absolutely.
It's hard to go out and throw something out there and then expect it to do it by itself. So somebody has to maintain that a little bit better.
And yes, it has been a very,
Attendance has been
a
good.
very good year, and the weather just keeps getting better and stretching out our golf days very well.
Good.
And our work days. Thank you.
Thank you, Troy. I have one comment when I read the staff challenges and everything, and the comment is a kudos comment, and it is about, it's a kudos to all the staff that work party in the parks. That is quite a challenge to, match your draining of your whole body because it's been a hard week, and then there are such great engagement, and got to about half of those this year, and it was awesome. So I want to say kudos for all that work, and pass it on to the staff, because everybody was filling in as they needed to make it a success with all those families. So do that, yeah. Any other comments?
I have one, when you talk about party of the parks, the Scott County Health Department used to have a table there and a tent there, and they're not doing that there any longer. Why is that? Is there a reason? Because of insurance?
I would have to get back to you.
I'm hearing different stories.
So our role in terms of those programs has changed. They are actually being administered and run through third floor through city administration, through Ally. So she coordinates all the vendors. So I'll ask her and find out why they're not there, but I don't have an answer for
They
you
were
right
there
now.
the first part of the year, and they were there last year, and then this year they just haven't been there.
Jess apparently knows the answer.
Okay.
So the Scott County Health Department also has a table at our February Family Fun Days. And just recently, we did get a call from them. There was some concerns about the hold harmless waiver that we have all of our vendors sign. Their legal department reviewed that, and there was some concerns. So it sounds like they pulled out of many different events with us until we can get middle ground on that.
From the health department.
The health department brought their concerns to us on our hold harmless waiver and opted not to participate in our events.
So what has to happen?
Our legal department
Your
will
legal department
will
for the
need to
city of
speak to
Davenport.
theirs
Okay, all right.
and review
Okay,
that document. That's not our document.
okay. Thanks.
If you had a chance to drive up Eastern Avenue this last weekend, you saw some eye-catching banners in connection with the Frisbee tournament. And I was so impressed with that. So you might see in the CIP, maybe looking at that kind of banner thing to be an eye-catcher as people drive around to like Party in the Park or, the film nights, because you see those and whoa. So I don't know. That wasn't ours. We just provided the space, right? It wasn't really our tournament, but it was that eye-catching flag business, and the park looked beautiful, by the way. So Betsy looks like she has a comment, maybe. Yeah, no? Okay. But it was just really, really dynamic. So looking for eye-catching things to the public as we're promoting ourselves. Chad, is there more? We have the director's report.
Yeah. The only thing I have to add is just a point of information. So next week, myself, Betsy, Teresa, Becca, and Amanda Randerson will be out of the office at conference at the National Recreation Park Association Conference. I'll be responding to emails and stuff as I can, but Jessica will be around, Troy will be around. If you guys have anything or need to reach us, feel free to email. Stat will be checking it, but just want to let you know we'll be at that conference, so.
You always come back with some great ideas, so we're looking forward
Yeah,
to sharing
it's-
that.
There's a pretty impressive exhibit hall with all the vendors and the playgrounds and new features, and I mean, it's
Well, we do
sort
have
of
one,
fun being in Parks and Rec.
Yeah,
You know,
excuse me.
when you get to go to that.
we do have one other report, and Chris,
Oh, yeah.
our Riverfront Development Commission, Improvement Commission report. So Chris, sign off with us, please.
Yeah, Chad gave a presentation at Riverfront Improvement about the Parks Master Plan, just to update them on how that all came out. And then they discussed what they will be submitting this fall for their CIP for the Riverfront improvement stuff. And they're coordinating with Chad to make sure there's not duplication where there shouldn't be, so that we can both get all kinds of good projects going. And then Steve talked a lot about the first Viking stop, which happened last week, and it's quite the big boat. If you haven't seen it the 2 times it's been here so far, it'll be here more times still. And there's still one day, I don't recall the date, but there's one day this fall where there will be 2, I think not the Viking ship, but 2 American Cruise Lines ship at the same time down there at that park. So that'll be a real photo opportunity. And then they're really outside of Parks world, but there's the old Boathouse restaurant. Looks like it should be getting a new tenant.
Good.
So that'll be a new place to eat on the riverfront and along the bike path there, hopefully.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. We do have on our agenda advisory time, and we have just maybe a sharing of a few items. If you have suggestions or ideas. We've had good questioning already with what is there. Yeah, Jerry?
On the riverfront, when will that be, decisions made on what they're gonna put in there for the parks?
Are you referring to Main Street Landing?
Yeah, Main Street Landing, yeah.
So the grant submittal for Destination Iowa is due at the end of September, which is the secondary funding source that the city's going after. I would not anticipate, we're still at the conceptual level with Sasaki. So you'll start to see some concepts come out, but as far as what is final in there, I would not anticipate seeing a final till early next year.
We will see that, though?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure if that was just a thing that they were gonna do and
Oh, no.
we'd not know about it.
Oh, no. They've had their public engagement. They did the Skybridge meeting. They did several things.
I was at the
Farmers
Skybridge
Market,
meeting,
And
yeah.
they've issued the survey. So they've gotten a lot of public feedback on different amenities. A lot of moving pieces, though, with the Destination Iowa grant, the CP merger, and ARPA funding of that. So myself, Courtney Jones, Clay Merritt, and Zach Peterson are sort of the staff team that has been working with Sasaki, the consultant group, on the concepts at this point. So I would say probably early next year we'll have something more firm to put out to the public. Because I think a lot of it still is up in the air in terms of, the Destination Iowa grant is a really big component, whether or not the city gets that or not. Will probably make the project deviate a little bit if they don't, so.
Okay.
Chad, I have
Yeah.
a question.
Yeah.
I've been getting, people are saying that the band shelter needs repainting. Is that in our means of doing it, or is it somebody else that has to take care of the band shelter?
Yeah, no, that's the band show at
The
LeClaire.
band shelter, it's
Yeah.
off downtown.
At LeClaire, yeah. So it's in our maintenance purview. It's in Steve's sort of programming purview with Riverfront Improvement. So funny story, sort of, not so funny story. Steve actually applied for a grant called, I think it was Paint America, I don't know, it's through, anyway, he submitted, we got awarded, and what he had requested was enough to paint the entire band show. Well, he was awarded 6 gallons of paint, which was not nearly enough. Yeah, if you see Steve Aarons, please don't give him a hard time about it, because I think he's still a little bitter about that.
Thinking about going to the paint store and asking, hey, can you?
Well, he wasn't even gonna accept the 6 gallons, because it really didn't do much for us, to be honest. But with that said, I believe he is working on a submittal for funding to paint the
That's
band
good to
show.
hear. Yeah. Jerry?
I have one more thing. Becca, can you speak on our dog park program a little bit, where we're at from our last meeting? Yep. Okay. Thank you.
So on the 7th, we had our first official meeting of the Dog Park Ad Hoc Committee. And we went over kind of general introductions so everyone understood the roles and responsibilities of each of the individuals that were part of the ad hoc. We also talked a lot about what our purpose and goals and objectives are. So broadly, we are looking at, as a group, creating standards for Davenport DOLAs. So not looking specifically at addressing concerns at Centennial and our newly named Robin Creek DOLAs, but what are some of the standards for dog parks and DOLAs moving forward? And then that will allow us to reevaluate a Centennial and Robin Creek and have those come up to the standards that we've established. So we kind of looked at a couple areas, security, structures, overall looks, amenities, activities that are available as themes for these standards, and then we'll begin addressing each of those.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any additional comments. I guess I am ready to entertain a motion to adjourn. We've had a very busy, full meeting with lots of information, so it's time to relax our brains.
Motion we adjourn.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. Those say yes to that
Yes.
approval? Aye. Yeah. We have lots of stuff, isn't it? Thank you, everyone. Thank you.